Hi. Well, it's another beautiful day, as usual. And today I want to talk about an attachment. Now, this attachment is kind of difficult to understand, so I'm going to go slow. By the way, this is my 100th video, so in a way, it's kind of good, I guess, to have 100 videos. But anyway, let's get back to the attachment. Now, what the attachment is strength. Everybody loves to have strength, don't they? I think strength is pretty good, right? But the problem is that when you have strength, you often don't bend. Like a willow. The willow bends, but an oak doesn't. And what happens when the big storm comes? Well, the oak goes down. And having strength and rigidity and all that is good, except when the big storm comes. And the big storms are coming. Okay, there's no question about that. I mean, look at the world right now. It's incredible, isn't it? Anyway. So, why is strength an attachment? Well, because of these bodies. I love these bodies. I love them, okay? Because I love my body. Look at this beautiful arm, huh? Look at that. That's beautiful. But the problem is that being strong, okay, can be a problem. For instance, let's say that you're a rock. And rocks are strong, aren't they? They're the strongest thing around, right? And you're in a stream. And you're standing up to the current, aren't you? But what happens to the rock? Well, eventually it gets worn down. On the other hand, if you're a moss, who's not very strong, you flow with the stream. You go back and forth. And that's what I really want to talk about today, is flowing with the stream. Now, the stream is life, okay? And life has all sorts of challenges and all sorts of things that go on that make it difficult to stay with the stream, okay? Or you'll get washed out, you know? That's what often happens, is we get washed out. So, in order to not get washed out, we have to be able to bend, okay? Like the moss. The moss can be in the stream for ages and ages without getting worn down. And why is that? Well, number one, it's alive. But number two is it's able to bend. So if you are strong, and I hope that you are, because strong is good, but not willing to bend, then you're going to break. Now, we can say the same thing about your mind, okay? If your mind is strong, which I hope it is, okay, but something happens, that mind could break. I don't want your mind to break, believe me, but that might happen, okay, because the storms are coming, okay? Emotional storms, mind storms of all kinds will come and push against you, push against your beautiful mind. And so you will either bend or you will break. That's it. That's the whole thing. You can't have it both ways. Being strong is great, but being flexible is better. Okay? Now, everybody knows that being strong is a good thing, basically. I mean, if you're strong, then you can do things, and you can lift things, and you can survive in the wild, let's say. Okay? But what happens if you build up your strength so much that you then can't move? Well, that's no good, is it? No. Everybody's seen those bodybuilders who can't even scratch their own back because they can't move, because they got so much muscles. Okay? So there's a difference between being too strong and being too weak. Okay? And so what we want to try and do is temper our strength with weakness. I know it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But that's what it is. Now, this is true with the mind as well. If you're always serious and always concentrating on what you have to do, okay, when the storm comes, and believe me, it's coming, okay? I don't want anyone to suffer, but suffering is part of life, okay? And especially if you are strong of mind and the storm comes, and you don't have any flexibility, then you are going to break. That is what's going to happen. Okay? Now, how do we avoid this situation? Well, for one thing, by being flexible. Oh, this is a tiny spider. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so how do we be flexible in the mind? Well, for one thing, not clinging. Okay? When we cling in the mind to these things, then we're not being flexible. We're being serious. And seriousness is all good unless it makes you unflexible. Okay? Now, everybody has things in this life that they have to do. Okay? I have things in my life that I have to do, and so do you. But what we do have to do as well as that is to accept. And accepting things is about being flexible. You cannot accept something if you are rigid, if you are strong and not willing to bend. Anyway, so how do we get more flexible? Well, we get more flexible by accepting what is. There's what is on the one hand, there's what is, and there's what you want over here, okay? And if you stick to what you want, if you cling to it, okay, then you won't be able to bend. Okay, now I like things to be a certain way. Of course I do, because I'm a human being. Okay? But if things aren't the way I want them to be, then I am okay with it because I can bend. Okay? But if you're clinging so hard to something that you can't bend, then you are going to suffer. So how do we let go of this strength? How do we let go of the rigidness that we have? Well, by seeing that we are not a person. And the thing that we're clinging to is really our downfall. I hate to say it so, but that's what it is. And I don't want anyone to downfall or have a downfall, but that's just what happens if we don't let go. Letting go is all about bending. You want your coffee a certain way, right? With a special, I can't think of it, sauce or flavoring that you like, okay? But when it doesn't come that way, you cling to what you want, and clinging is only going to hurt you in the end, okay? And you say to the barista, hey, this isn't what I wanted, okay? And so the barista gets upset, you're upset, and what happens? You're unhappy. That's what happens. So we don't want to be unhappy. That's, the main thing here. I mean, happiness is really what this is all about. And if you're going to be clinging to things, okay, and holding on to things so heavily that you can't bend, then you're going to suffer, okay? Now, secondly, you have to let go of what you think is your strength. I know, that's terrible, isn't it? Well, we all have strengths, don't we? Okay? Like, for instance, my strength is letting go. But seriously, whatever your strength is, okay, you gotta let go of it, okay? And how do we let go? By accepting that it's not a strength, okay? I mean, we may think of it as a strength. We may think of these things as a strength, but you know what? They're not, okay? They are things we need to let go in order to live. And not just live in a dream where you think everything is the way you want it, but it's not, okay? Which is what 99% of people are living in. They're not living in the real world because they can't see the real world because of all these thoughts that are blocking their vision, okay? So, try to remember who you are. You are not a person, you're a soul. And what is a soul? What is a soul? A soul is God. That's what it is. God took a part of himself, okay? Like you can imagine somebody taking a part of their heart, okay? And removing it and then putting it inside another person, okay? That's what he did, okay? Except God doesn't have a heart. He just is what he is. I don't know what he is. You don't know what he is. That's because we just don't. We can't really conceive of what God is. But we can accept that he is there. Okay, a lot of people think, oh, I need to go to church and pray to God. Well, I don't know if that's going to work for you. Because God is not in a church. God is in you. Okay? And that means you are the one who has to decide what is going to happen with you. Are you going to bend like the willow? Or are you going to be worn down by the stream? And believe me, the stream can wear you down. Life is a flow. It flows, okay? From one thing to the next. And in that flow, it's very like a stream or a river, okay? And as the flow moves through and around you, if you are so strong and rigid and serious, that flow is going to wear you down. But on the other hand, if you are like the willow and can bend and move with the flow, become part of the flow, because that's what we are, is we're part of the flow. But we don't like being part of the flow because we want things to be the way we want them to be. And that's just the way it is. I mean, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad here, okay? What I am trying to do is help you understand your freedom, which is in the flow. That's where your freedom lies. I don't know if you've ever played an instrument or sung a song, but at some point in time as you're playing and singing, you get into the flow, right? I've experienced this. I'm sure a lot of people have. And that flow is part of the flow of life. And if we aren't willing to bend a little bit, we're not going to find that flow. The flow is very elusive and hard to find, isn't it? Yes, it is. But it's important to find it, because without the flow, music's just not as good. It's not. I mean, that's just what I think. I don't know everything. I know some things, but I don't know everything. But I do know that if you want to find the flow in your life, okay, which is what is, you have to bend a little bit and let go of the strength that you think you have, because you don't really have it. Because you don't have anything except one thing. And what is that one thing? Now. Okay? Everything else can be taken away. Time will take away your strength. Time will take away everything that you have that you think is yours, because that's what it does. Okay? You think you're strong? Well, just wait 20 years and see how strong you are. Okay? You think you're smart? Well, keep drinking the coffee and keep doing what you got to do, and eventually that smart will be worn down. Okay? I don't want anyone to feel bad because they think they're smart or because they think they're strong. Those things are fine, but not if you make them a part of who you really are. Who you really are is a soul, and there's no part of that soul that has room for strength or smarts or talent or anything else. That's all part of your person. And if you try to make those things to fit into your soul, that's a funny idea, isn't it? Then you will suffer, because your soul only contains one thing, and that is God. Okay? And God is everything. Literally, everything is God. I mean, you've heard people say it. God is everywhere. God is everything. And he is, because everything that exists, including trees and plants and rocks, have a little bit of God in them. I know people say, how can a rock have God in it? How can a rock have any consciousness? Well, it's a kind of consciousness we just don't understand. Just like we don't understand the consciousness of the universe, because we are limited beings, and our brains are limited, not our souls. Our souls are unlimited, but we basically operate on the brain, okay? And that means limitations. I don't want that to be the way it is. That's just the way it is, okay? And what you need to do, what we all need to do, is accept what is. And what is that you have to bend with the flow, Okay? And that's all. There's nothing else that you can do. If you try to resist the flow, if you try to stop the flow, then you will be worn down. Because I don't know if you've ever been to the ocean. Okay? But if you have ever been to the ocean and you stood in the water and a big wave came, you could say, I'm going to stand in this water and I'm going to stop this wave. I'm going to keep this wave from knocking me down. But what does the wave do? It knocks you down, doesn't it? Because that's what they do. It's a force way more powerful than you are. And so is the flow. So just accept that you are not strong. No matter how strong you think you are, and I'm sure you are in a way, you can lift heavy objects and so on and so forth, you're not strong enough to resist the flow of life. And however much you want to cling to these things that aren't a part of you, the flow is going to wear them down. And that includes your strength and your talent and your smarts. Okay? So the thing we need to do is to go with the flow. I know you've probably heard that phrase a dozen times, if not more. Okay? Because we need to do that. We need to accept the flow as it is without trying to make it into something else. Look, I know it's hard to try and figure out what you are, okay? What you're doing here. What's the purpose of everything? I'm going to tell you what the purpose of everything. The purpose of everything is to go with the flow, okay? Don't be the rock. The rock will get worn down. Have you ever seen a flat rock? Because it was worn down. At one time, it had a peak. It had a, substance. But now it doesn't. It's just a flat piece of stone. You don't want to be that flat piece of stone with half of yourself gone. You want to be the moss that bends in the flow, bends in the wind of change. The winds of change are coming, and they're coming for you. And they're coming because that's just the way it is. And the winds of change have a flow, and you can either go with the flow or you can try to fight it. And if you try to fight it, just like Bob Dylan says, it ain't going to work. Okay? Times they are changing. And if you're not going to get out of the way, you're going to get mowed down. That's the way it is. Okay? Either go with it or get out of the way. And if you get out of the way, that means you're no longer part of everything. You're no longer part of what makes the world what it is. Okay? And you'll be left behind. Just like if you spend your time in the past by thinking about, oh, wasn't I great then? And now look at me. Which plenty of people do. Okay? So try to remember that you are not a person. You are not a thing with smarts, with strength, with talents. All that stuff, which I love talent. Don't you love talent? I think talent's great. But you know what? It's part of your person. It's part of your personality. Okay? It's not part of your soul. Your soul doesn't have talent. Your soul doesn't have strength. Your soul doesn't have smarts. What your soul has is wisdom. There's knowledge, which we of men have, okay, and try to get more of, right? And then there's wisdom. And what is wisdom? Wisdom is knowing what to do with the knowledge. That's what it is. And if you don't accept the flow and let it be part of you, then you are going to have no wisdom. And then you won't know what to do with the knowledge that you do have. I mean, we live in the internet age. We live in a time and place where you can find out just about anything at the touch of a finger, okay? But what are you going to do with that knowledge? What are you going to do with it? If you don't have a little bit of God's wisdom, you're not going to be able to do anything with it because you're clinging. You're clinging on to something that's not you. All right, well, the clock is telling me it's time to go, though I don't want to. I'd love to sit here and talk to you all day. But I have to. Anyway, I love you all because you're all me, okay? And all of us are part of God. God can't exist without us. Okay? If you think about the source, which is really all the connections in the universe, okay? And those connections are part of us, okay? And we cannot have those connections without having God. Because every time you make a connection with somebody, the door opens a little bit, and the love comes through, and the knowledge, and the wisdom. Sorry, not knowledge. But if you don't let that door open a little bit, if you don't open your heart to what is, then you are going to be left behind, and you won't be able to be a soul, because you'll be clinging to the person. Well, I guess we just passed the 20-minute threshold. I'm sorry about that, but that's the way it is. Anyway, I love you all. Have a great life.